Camera is up.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We had a amazing night last night, and we were actually supposed to have a guest on today. Things got switched real quick. Thanks a lot, Nora, and and we had to kind of adjust last minute.
Right.
But no better night to have to readjust than after last night, because we have every and anything we want to talk about with Cybulski last night.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So let's start from the top, my friend. I mean, what did you feel going into Cybulski for the second time? And Cybulski, for those of you that do not know, is a reintegration center.
Yep.
So these are gentlemen that are going to be reintegrated back into society. I believe it's within 5 years or so. I could be wrong about that, but
yeah,
in the upcoming years.
Yeah, a lot of them are within 3 years. Talking with Tony, but yeah, this is pretty much they're getting ready to be released in society again, and a lot of them are on work release programs and those type of things too. But yeah, it's essentially just prison, just the last stage before they get released. So,
right.
But yeah, to answer your question, dude, I felt much more relaxed. I was pretty relaxed, obviously. I think the first time, but way more relaxed this time around. Just because, the environment, right? You know what you're walking into. We've seen it all. We knew we were going to see familiar faces too. We knew the kind of the setting, men's group, large group, everything wasn't new to us again, and so that kind of put me at ease a little bit.
Yeah.
But this time, man, I was just excited. I was just flat out excited and ready to roll.
I agree. There was definitely a comfort level because, like you said, we've been there before.
Yeah.
We knew with the men's group what that was going to look like. Tony, shout out to Tony again. He told us that there were going to be some members in there that were in the first men's group, so that also was a comfort level too. So we knew the engagement would be there.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, same thing. I mean, the first time around, I was so nervous. I was sweating from every crevice.
You told him yesterday too.
Oh,
You flat out told him.
Nothing to hide. And this time, like you said, I was more excited. And we grew a lot, man. We did have a lot more speaking engagements under our belt that we could reflect on and say, hey, that's experience. We've been through this before. We can do it again.
Yeah.
And we're excited to spread the message and touch on the topics and discuss the topics that we were going to share.
Yeah, and what was fun this time around too was our preparation, because ironically,
the stages of the preparation.
Right. You know what I mean? And ironically enough, it was a conversation last night. It was a topic that we brought to them last night was preparation. But our own preparation, I felt was very methodical this time. We had a very strong understanding of what we wanted to do and how we were going to execute it. And again, that comes from experience, but we told them last night, the story kind of it was a month ago maybe we met with Tony?
Yeah.
3.5 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working on this since then.
Yeah.
And it was, we had pages and pages of notes. We got to dial them back. We got to figure out who's going to say what. When we were doing that, we're we don't like that. Let's get rid of this. You know what I mean? It's a process.
But it's necessary.
It's so necessary.
Yeah.
It's so necessary. I loved our process this time around. I thought it was thorough. I thought it paid the dividends. And I thought that when we were explaining it to them, it kind of showed them just how much the effort that was going into kind of us giving them our best.
And how serious we take it.
Right.
It wasn't like we prepared the night before, randomly selected some topics, and just said, let's go with it.
Yeah.
We prepared, we took it serious, and we genuinely want to help educate, inspire, and motivate.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we're going through that and we are actively trying to come across in a way where, our work is showing it for us, and we told them yesterday, part of our speech to them, was you got to prove it. Every day you have to prove it again. And we said it about ourselves. We're here talking to you again and prepared the way we did again because we have to prove it to you again, right? So that was another thing I really enjoyed too, was that feeling of well, let's go show them again, right?
Yeah.
Let's prove it to ourselves again. You know what I mean? Because it's still relatively new to us. So I think getting that feeling of proving it is a big thing for our confidence and everything moving forward for us.
I also wanted to really show them our evolution too, because we spoke to them in May.
Yep.
And we had months to evolve. And I think, especially with the larger group, we were definitely able to show how we've evolved since the first time.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's good because we had some guys who saw us before,
right?
And you know, right away they remembered us. Right away they approached us. It was like we were part of the family there, right? And which was cool.
Yeah.
So to kind of give you guys some background, it was very similar the setting and the setup of what we did there yesterday. So we were there from 6 to 8. From 6 to 7, we met with a men's group. It's a more intimate group. They meet weekly and kind of go over certain topics, but it's a pretty open dialogue. The kind of just guys working through their feelings and stuff. And so we met with them from 6 to 7, and then we had a larger group of about 55, 60 guys in what they call the chow hall, which is the cafeteria essentially. And we met with them from 7 to 8. So that was a kind of our layout. The men's group this time was really engaging, man.
Oh yeah. And so how we selected the topics for the men's group is we basically sent Tony roughly around like 15 topics, and we had every member of the men's group select their top 5. And so what we did is basically the topics that were voted for the most, we selected the top 3, and the 2 that were the most were regret and focus on who you want to become. Leadership was the last one that we had in our back burner, like our back pocket, in case we had more time, which we did not.
We were rushing at the end.
Yeah, we were rushing at the end. But so regret, man, regret was a lot of fun. But also it showed too that, and I know you're gonna touch on this too.
No, go ahead, man. Fire away.
Is that each person in that men's group, each man, is using the time that they're in there to reflect on what they've learned from why they are actually there.
Yeah. And in this group, it was specifically about their relationships, which I found interesting.
It's true.
Because we'll get into kind of that a little bit later too, but here specifically in the men's group, it was more like they were very aware of the relationships that they missed out on, but they were also very aware of how they know their relationships would have been much different if they never were in there to begin with. And they would have been worse, actually.
Yeah.
It was such a unique perspective because these guys are missing a lot, and as someone and some ones, if you will, who have never experienced that, you don't know what that feels like, right?
Right.
I mean, shit, when we go away for like a day or a night, like you feel like you're missing out. Could you imagine years and years, right? So it's a unique perspective to hear them kind of work through that and how they really feel about it, having experienced it for so long. That's kind of what I took away most from that men's group. Was like, holy cow, like they're really dialed into the value of relationships because they haven't had the chance to really fully have them.
Yeah, and I would say again, like the self-reflection piece, because especially one of the gentlemen that shared all of his friends are dead.
Yep.
And he said, if I was continuing that life, I would not be here.
Yep.
So he's thankful for what he went through, not for actually what transpired, but so that he's actually alive. And so that he can strengthen the relationship that he has with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
He can become a better man, so that, and also his perspective has changed as well, because he thought as a father it's all about the gifts, when in all actuality it's all about the connection. Remember he said that too?
Yeah, he's talking about like, I'm a provider. Right. That's all I was a provider.
And he wasn't ever there.
Yeah.
He was always on the go.
Yeah.
But kids, all they want is for their dad or for their mom to give them attention. Right.
Yeah, and he felt like he could provide that better with where he was.
Right.
Or where he is, I should say.
Yeah.
And that was, and a couple guys, like once, and I believe he was the first to say it, But once he said it, like, you could just see all the people in that room who have kids, at the very least, were nodding their head in complete agreement whenever they would say something. And then we had about 4 other guys stand up or whatever, and just say, absolutely, I agree with that. That, my kids, we had one of the guys talk about his daughters calling him about her having her first kiss.
14.
Right, and how he felt about that, and it was so funny. It was so funny because he goes, Did you tell him that your dad's in jail? And because we all started laughing because he said it in a way of like, you better let him know that, right? Like, it was just really funny, and we had a lot of good interactions about that because we have kids, and we let them know we have kids when we're in there,
right?
And because it allows us to relate to them while we're in there.
Oh yeah.
And the way they use their kids now as a way, and the way we put it to them was raise their standards.
Yeah.
They seem to use that as fuel to raise their own standards, because all those guys in there, we told them, like, you're in here because you are of the mindset that you want to grow, right? You have that growth mindset in you, that you wouldn't be in this room if you weren't.
Yeah.
And when we have those conversations and talk about raising their standards, I don't think see it that way until you say it to them.
Right.
Like, no, like, what you guys are talking about now with all this is, you're essentially just, I'm here now, and I will not accept anything beneath me that I used to partake in anymore, because that's not my standard anymore.
Yeah. I mean, especially too with the gentleman sharing about how he talked to some of his friends and they're looking forward for him coming back.
Yeah, dude, that was crazy.
You could feel his fire. He's like, no, I don't want to go back.
Right.
I'm not going back.
Yep.
He's like, I can't go back. I want more out of my life. And you could tell just the look in his eyes and the passion that he had that he's not going to go back.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I said, your environment dictates your behavior. And it's from the first time we were there in May when we talked about belief systems. If you go back to that same environment, you're going to be surrounded by the same people that are the reason why you're there today.
Yeah.
I could feel his passion. Yeah. And I challenged him. I said, don't go back there, man.
Yeah.
Don't go back there. Don't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, because you felt that from him. Yeah. He was almost like bothered they would even suggest it.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn, like, he's got it, like, he understands it, you know what I mean? And like,
but they're not friends. Like, those aren't friends. They just want to bring you down.
And that was completely identified by him and other people in that room by themselves. They did not need us to tell them that. Yeah. They identified that before we even broached the subject with them. Yeah. And it's interesting because when they have those thoughts now that they didn't have then, I think they see what future thoughts they could have as well, right? Like, they see, like, oh wow, like, if I've made that growth, what's the next set of ideals that I can change about myself? Right. And that's it's like you said, it's a fire. And when you can kind of have those open dialogues with them, because that group is intimate. Yeah. So they're much more inclined to talk about things. And there's some quiet guys in that group too. Yeah. We had some guys who just kind of chilled, sat back, and just listened. But they were at least acknowledging when they're
something that resonated.
Exactly.
With them.
They had that look about them where they were just nodding, like, yep, he said it.
So when we were on the topic of regret, a really good question came up to us was, what's the difference between a mistake and regret? And I thought that was a really fascinating question. Yeah. Would you change your answer from what you gave yesterday, now that you've gotten time to think about it?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think that was my exact first thought. Yeah. So what I told the guy was, and did you agree with it? That's out of curiosity.
No, I thought you were spot on.
Yeah. Okay. So, but by all means, if you thought I was way off, you could say. But what I told him was that a mistake is the act. A regret is the emotion that you carry on with you from that act. So it's something that you're letting kind of spiral at that point. The regret's the weight you're carrying from all the emotions, from all the years and all the times from that mistake. It's a singular act, yes, but what's the regret? Everything you carry with you from that. Yeah. And you know, those questions they come up with sometimes are so good.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
They make you think.
Which makes me feel great, and I'm sure you do too, because I know then I'm making them think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man, that's deep. I like that.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm like perfect.
Yeah.
Like we have them on the right path of
Yeah.
like you got to really have deeper thoughts. We talk about a lot about deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah. Using imagination,
right.
Dreaming, oh yeah,
all that different stuff. Like when you can see that they're I don't want to say applying it, but essentially they are at the moment applying it.
Yeah.
It's rewarding. And speaking of that, you got to tell them about the other guy's going to tell you about the salt water.
Oh, but before I share that, I
Okay.
have to be very open and honest too, because the mentors that we follow,
Yeah.
all of these speaking professionals, if you will, we always see where they're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, if you saw me starting out,
Yeah.
you know, with me freezing up, Ed Milet had that where he like froze up or he stuttered,
Yeah.
completely forgot. Well, that was me yesterday, right at the very beginning of the men's group. So I was going to kick us off. Now the group knows us, but I was going to do the intro of what's up, fellas. You know, again, I'm Brian. This is John.
Yeah.
You know, we have a Bottom Lines podcast, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, for those who didn't know us, right? Because we had a few new faces in there.
And I don't know what happened, but I had a gigantic brain fart, and I just went totally blank. And for the life of me, I could not even bullshit my way out of it because I just was completely
froze.
Oh yeah.
You have Mitch McConnell on him and just kind of
And
froze.
I just went, wow.
I am fucking blank right now.
Yeah. And luckily, boom, you picked it right up.
Yeah.
And I had to like kind of gather myself.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck just happened?
So,
Blackout.
But what? And this is where like I think we know each other's dynamics and know each other's cues a lot of times without saying anything at this point. But when I saw you kind of like, at least trying what I thought to be was like collecting your thoughts for a second, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give him a second. And then it was like, all right, I'll give him one more second, because I could see at that point like you were a little lost at that point. And I'm like, all right, I can't leave him hanging, but I also don't want to cut you off and then jump in when I shouldn't, because I still want to. So like it was just really funny, like it. But they totally fucking loved it though.
Yeah,
they loved it. Tony like thought it was hilarious. Like it was just like, you know what, like we're here. You know what I mean? Like these guys are being raw and real with us now. You know what I mean?
But you know, I'm gonna say this too. I did not let that ruin the rest of the time with the men's group.
No.
I was able to gather myself, pick it back up, and just move on.
Dude, I'm telling you, and I'm not bullshitting you, legitimately think that it made things better. But because like it totally like just relaxed everyone at that point. Like it was like right away we were all laughing together.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, we're off to the races now. And after that point, how many times did we have that group bust out laughing? Yeah. Every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
We had the larger group laughing too.
Yeah, we did. You know what I mean? But it was like, it was perfect, because it was like, it just brought the temperature down the room a little bit. Where it's like, for those guys who didn't know who we were, right? Yeah. It was like automatically like, it was like, okay, we're good. Like this isn't going to be like this where they're, you know, these uptight stiffs. You know what I mean? Like we were joking with Tony, and like he was joking around with us. And it was great. So
no, I had to bring that up though.
But you got to tell the story about the salt water.
So for those of you that have been with us since like the first episode, you might have heard me mention about the mineral cocktail that I have every single morning, which is warm water, about a fourth of a teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt, and some lemon, right? At the first men's group back in May, I talked about my morning routine. I talked about the mineral cocktail. These two guys came up after we had spoken to them in the men's group and go, dude, that saltwater drink is fucking nasty. And I was like, oh, you guys tried it? Like, yeah, we did it for about a week. That was gross.
Yeah, and BG goes, well, did you add lemon? And they look at him like, we're not gonna get fucking lemon, bro.
I was like, ah.
It was so funny.
But I should have asked if they're using table salt, because I guarantee you they're using table salt.
Listen.
Now, I know. We all don't have Himalayan sea salt. We all don't have lemons, okay? Well, then yes, your warm water will probably taste like shit. I'm sorry.
Okay, guess what? Himalayan sea salt and lemon and salt water
Tony,
tastes
come on,
like
pull some
shit.
strings.
Okay.
Pull some strings.
Yeah,
Okay?
you're doing them a favor, Tony.
Yeah. But what that proved is, even back in May when we came in there, they were applying what we taught,
Yes.
what we spoke about.
Right.
So right there, that was like, all right.
Yep.
They're trying what we're preaching.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It was a really good men's group. We kind of let them know and always bring them into like kind of how we do our men's group and how it evolved us and changed us, because they do ask Tony a lot about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they want to be a part of it. So it's important that, just make sure you're not spread eagle again.
Sorry, dude.
You good? Are you
Yeah.
sore?
No, just my hip. Like I was sitting in that position too long. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
Just want to make sure you're all set.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I had to adjust though.
So like they want to be a part of it, so it's important for us to always let them know that like it's not just in here you're gonna want that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be important to you out there too.
Absolutely.
So let's go to the large group now, because that was what. And let me ask you this off the jump, right? Did having it in the chow hall not throw you off for a minute, but like did it give you a little bit of a different vibe when we got in there and we stood up and like we were much closer to them and all? Like did that give you like a little bit different of a vibe?
Yeah, I loved it. I felt it was more intimate.
Yeah.
I felt that we could establish a connection right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think we did that right off the bat, especially with your guy there. I'm gonna call him Snaps.
Snaps. That's what we call them,
Right off the bat, as soon as he saw you.
Yep.
Which is great, because you went right over to him
Yeah.
and said, hey, you know, and said the story to him. So like right off the bat, it seemed like a welcoming environment where we didn't have to speak over the heater that was there back in May or whatever. And we had basically everybody was right there in front of us.
Yeah.
And what I really liked, I was really looking forward to speaking with the large group, because I thought the topics that we had were money.
Oh yeah, dude, they were great.
And so the topics that we spoke to them about were forgiveness and preparation. The reason why we chose forgiveness is because a lot of times, and you know, both you and I have experience with not allowing ourselves to forgive for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And with forgiveness, especially with being in an integration center, you either have to forgive yourself or you have to forgive the person or someone or some people that have wronged you.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it holds you back from becoming the person you're meant to be. And in our preparation for forgiveness, you know, I was doing a lot of research on like how you actually forgive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't find anything. But then when I asked myself a different question with why do we forgive, then it made so much sense. And then I was like, that is why I went down the healing journey of forgiveness, right?
Yeah, right.
And because it's freedom. It is freedom.
Yeah.
And once you have that freedom, you're no longer being held back by either yourself or that person that may have held something, you know, over you, or at least you thought.
Yeah.
And so when we went into forgiveness, I thought it was great because there were a lot of head nods.
Oh yeah.
Especially when we opened it up at the very end to when we asked them, how many here have forgiven themselves or forgiven someone else? And initially it was interesting. We had no interaction.
Right.
And then this one gentleman who was in the first men's group raised his hand, stood up, and talked about forgiving, was it his ex-wife or his ex-baby?
Yeah, it was ex-wife, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Baby mama? Yeah, no, yeah.
Which is big for him to speak up.
Yep.
And talk about that, talk openly about what he was feeling, his emotions, bitterness, anger, and how he was able to forgive her. And then it led to more hands coming up.
Yeah.
More people speaking openly. And that was great. I felt like that was almost like the lead into everyone feeling almost like, all right, I can share if something's on my heart, I can share.
They clapped for each other.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like,
support group.
You guys, like, I don't think you guys could fully understand that until you're in that environment. So you have a room full of 60 men specifically, right? Men and ladies. This is no slight to you at all. It's actually probably a compliment to you that you're able to communicate much better than we can. That you're in a room full of 60 men who are in there for various reasons, who probably feel a need to somewhat remain protective of their own, inner beings and emotions, right?
Yeah.
And when someone took that first step to have open dialogue about what they struggled with, what they had to forgive through, or forgive someone for and work through, and then a room full of these guys clap.
Yeah.
Unprompted. You didn't clap. I didn't clap. Tony didn't clap. Ashley didn't clap. Nobody. They started it.
Yeah.
And the second they did that, dude, in my head, I was like, holy shit. And the reason I said holy shit was because I felt proud that the environment that was created with all of us felt like it was safe enough for those guys to share that in front of all of their peers.
Free of judgment.
Completely free of judgment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn, like, and not just you and I when I say like we're as in that whole group, like we're doing something here.
Yeah.
And like that might have been overall my favorite part of the night when that happened. And it happened 3 or 4 or 5 times throughout that process.
Yeah. And it was crazy too because that takes a lot of bravery for them to speak up.
Yep.
But the reason why we all communicate, whether it be the good or the bad, is to feel better.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you, the gentleman that got up and spoke, all of them, felt much better sharing that.
Yeah.
And one of the gentlemen even talked about how he tried to commit suicide twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he even said, I don't share that openly. And some of the guys here probably would think, what? Why would you do? I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
You're so jovial.
Yep.
But he gave a very good analogy where he's like, he didn't understand the ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
That him being in prison affected his children.
Yep.
And it's almost like he couldn't bear that pain that he has been causing his family.
Mm-hmm.
But then he was able, through being incarcerated, discover his purpose.
Yeah.
And now understands how he's going to be a better father, which is huge, man.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's insane because that's who we call snaps, right?
Yeah.
A guy that if you were to walk up to and meet, like, he's one of those people that like has that energy and that vibe about him that like brings your vibe up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like him sharing that, very open, very transparent on all the things that he talked about, and was very open and transparent in our first large group too.
Right. Which is huge.
It just kind of fed that environment a little bit. You know what I mean? And there was something about this larger group this time that I just felt like there was a level of acceptance amongst themselves that kind of just that fed everything we were saying through the night.
If you could summarize what their stories or what they're or sharing what has transpired with them or what they've learned, how did that impact you?
So what I took away most from what's impacted them, that impacted me, if that makes sense, was when we asked them, and it was off the cuff, because we kind of touched on it a little bit in the small men's group. We kind of got the vibe from it. And then in the large men's group, we kind of, when they were sharing their stories about forgiveness and stuff like that, a lot of it had to do with them maturing.
Yes, you're spot on.
And them maturing from the 4 walls that they're in. Like that environment bred their maturity.
Right.
And it was like, wow. And I just asked them. And I said, listen guys, myself and Brian have no experience with the things you experience, so I hope this isn't out of pocket when I ask this. But do you think that these four walls and this environment has helped you mature as men and made you better people if you weren't on the outside still. I said, by a show of hands, who agrees with that?
I think everybody's hand went up.
Every fucking hand went up.
Yeah.
And that was wild to me because, like, and at that point, right, because we talked a little bit about it throughout the night, I said, that's gratitude. That's what gratitude is. You guys are thankful through the hardships that you had, through the forgiveness and the regrets, all the things you had to go through. You found gratitude through that. And you found gratitude in the most of the harsh environments you could have it in. So, like, take that with you. That's what hit me the most last night, man. Where it was like, these guys found gratitude from being where they are in some of the most harsh environments. You know what I mean? It was wild. Like, that blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
I would say what impacted me the most is probably our guy there, who's the personal trainer now.
Mm-hmm.
His story about his father committing suicide at 13.
Yeah.
Just really feeling for that because I have two sons.
Right.
13 is such a young age. I mean, that's 7th grade. To lose your father
and he
suicide.
He asked us, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but tell them what he asked us too.
Yeah, so the question that he asked was towards the end of the large group, and he said it was related to forgiveness.
Because our topics last night for the large group were forgiveness and preparation, okay?
Yeah.
So this had to do with the forgiveness topic.
And so he asked us, he'll have great days where he'll be very fond of the memories that he had with his father, but then there's other days where, he's really angry and bitter and resenting his father for missing a lot of his life,
Yep, and he thought that maybe it would have helped him through the hard times, and maybe he kind of was alluding to preventing him being there.
Right. And so he asked us, his question to us was, how does he create that mindset that basically that he's always basically grateful for the time they have with his father or viewing it in a positive light?
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me. And I thought you gave a very good answer too, is, you're human, man. You're going to have those ebbs and flows of your mindset, just like we do. We're not always thinking positive. We're not always in a great mood. We're human too. But that impacted me because I have two boys, and it's like he was 13 when that happened, and I'm not quite sure how old he is now, but that hurt is still there.
Yeah.
That pain is still there.
Yeah.
And I could tell that I don't think he blames himself with his father doing that, but it's more or less like, how could you leave me? Like, was I not good enough?
Yeah, if you think about it, because you say he's 13, I would imagine he's probably around 40, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm right. But he's carried that for that long.
Yeah.
Like, if we're guessing 25 to 30 years, he's been carrying that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I would say he's probably feeling rejected. Like, you couldn't. Just think about it.
Yeah. That's pretty common with suicides and stuff. That's like the people who are left behind are left wondering, like, was I not good enough, or you know what I mean, like, you couldn't stick around for me, like those type of things.
So I'd say that impacted me because
that shit was deep.
It was deep. And again, that's courage to be bringing that up and to really asking for our thoughts on that and how we could help him.
Yep. And
so we gave him some advice.
Yep.
But it really impacted me, and I continued to think about it last night too, because that's just that's raw, and you could see it still bothers him, and it just made me want to be even closer to like my boys.
Right. It made me, and I know I can speak for you here, I'm confident in that, it made me look forward to going back again.
Absolutely.
Because when you're getting that raw emotion from them and you're getting real ass responses and questions about deep, deep things within themselves. It's like you just want to be able to like provide them. And as we told him last night, like our purpose of being here is to provide you tools.
Yes, exactly. We may not have all the answers, but
Right.
we can provide you with tools that may help you.
Exactly.
Right.
So like when you hear things like that, it's like, man, I just want to give you the whole goddamn toolbox. You know what I mean? Like anything I got, I want to give to you here. Because it's all right. So I'm gonna tell you this, okay? So last night before I left, left the house, came downstairs, kissed the girls. I said, good night. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Like bedtime tonight. And where are you going? I said, Daddy's going to speak tonight. And Bill, my oldest, who's 7, she says, where? And I said, at a prison. And she says, you're going to prison? And I said, yeah. And she says, who are you talking to? And I said, the inmates and the people who were in the prison. Well, why are you talking to them? And I said, well, because we think that we have things that could help them because they're going to be released soon. So we think we have, some things that could help them get ready for when they get released and when they're released. And she said, and now keep that in mind, then she says, well, they're in jail, so why are they getting released? They did something bad. And I said, you know what, you're right. I said, that is why they're there. I said, but when I send you to your room because you did something bad, do I let you come back out? And she said, yeah. I said, so they get to come back out too. I said, some things are bad, and sometimes they don't come out. But the people we're meeting with tonight are coming back out. And I thought about that last night when I was there, when we were kind of wrapping up and we were kind of saying our thank yous and stuff like that. And I was kind of just looking around and being present, kind of how we were talking about them. And I was just like, you know what? Like, this is such a unique crowd. This is such a unique opportunity we have. And to kind of be with those guys and to kind of have that connection with them on a level that not many people could have and maybe even understand. Yeah. I thought it's really cool. Really proud of us for that. Really proud of them for letting us in there and kind of being part of that whole thing. And it was just a really cool moment. Like I kind of was like hearing her voice in my head in that moment. So like it was just like,
and it's a good teaching moment, man. That's a really good teaching moment.
But it's just the misconceptions because. Listen, we don't know exactly why a lot of those guys are there. They were open with us last night. They, some of them mentioned gun charges and things like that, and we know some of them are there for murder and those things that kind of pass through. Maybe not in our group. Maybe they are. We don't know. But I know the guys we speak to. We shook damn near everyone's hand at the end of it. We talked to everybody, right? Yeah. Like these are people. If I was to see out in public, I would approach them.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's just.
Well, this is the thing, and I'm gonna say this, and I know you feel the same way. Is we genuinely believe in them.
Yeah.
And we want them to succeed.
Yeah, man.
Like you and I have talked ad nauseum before. Like what else? What can we do?
Right.
That's we haven't started really formulating it, but that's why we want to start a men's group. Mm-hmm. Is because we see the benefits of how it helps us.
Yeah.
We see the benefits of how it's helping the Reintegration Center. We know that men would benefit from this.
Yeah.
Having a safe space.
Yep.
So we're hoping to get that launched sometime in November.
Yeah.
We're always busy, but hey,
a little sneak peek on this, right?
I know, right?
A little sneak peeky here.
Yeah. But like that's something that we could offer them.
No, for sure. And that's just and I said the whole, with the whole gratitude thing and what they've learned and all these things like that stuck out to me. But even saying that now, and I'm like having a moment of reflection as I'm talking about it now, and it's like, those are just like the way they've grown, the way they've matured. They're not the same people they were, at least, a lot of the ones we connected with. It's just like you just hope the best for them at this point, man. Like you're legitimately, genuinely rooting for them.
Yeah.
Because like they're just good dudes in there.
Yeah.
Like they really are. Like the core of who they are, they're good dudes. So
I agree. And too is the growth, and they're not the same people anymore. Neither are we since May.
Exactly. It's a good point too, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Since last year too.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good point.
Yeah. That's right.
So guys, that you know, we wanted to share that with you. We love kind of sharing our experiences and what we learned from it. To kind of give you a little sneak peek. We can't bring anything in there when we go in there, so we can't like take pictures or things like that generally. So we kind of do our best to illustrate it with our words here. But we're excited to share this stuff with you. That this means a lot to us. So it's fun to kind of put that out there for you guys to kind of hear, and not so much hear about what we did, but kind of more so what it meant to us.
Yeah, and if you feel, whether it be at your business, work, school, youth sports we've spoken to as well, if there's a message that you feel that we could deliver, let us know. We'd be happy to do it.
For sure.
Because we have passion for this. It lights a flame, and we know that if you approached us, we would bring that same preparation and that same fire, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And for the boys in Cybulski listening, we're supposed to be, which is pretty cool, another shout out to Tony here. Our podcast is supposed to be released. They have like a podcast system they use in the prison system that gets updated every November. And he's working on getting our podcast updated and into that system for November. So it'll be released throughout the entire prison system. So that'll be really cool. So for the fellas in Cybulski, when you hear this or when you see this, we appreciate you guys. We are looking forward to our next trip there. And we'll see you guys real soon.